There is a truth every man feels, but very few ever dare to articulate. A truth so deeply wired into female desire that admitting it publicly would burn down the entire illusion modern society tries to protect. Here it is: women do not desire the man who does everything right. They desire the man who cannot be controlled. Not the man who rushes to reply. Not the man who adapts to her mood. Not the man who softens himself into emotional cotton just to be acceptable. But the man whose presence disrupts her inner world. Because here's the part no woman will confess: comfort never created desire. Friction did. Tension did. Polarity did. For years, you were trained to be predictable, polite, available, agreeable. You were told that kindness equals attraction, that emotional softness equals maturity, that, being understanding, will make her want you. But the truth is far colder. What society teaches men is the exact formula that kills female desire. She doesn't lose interest because you lack value. She loses interest because you lack edge. You remove every spark of unpredictability. You eliminate every boundary. You smooth every rough edge of your personality until nothing remains but a pleasant, harmless, neutral man. And then you wonder why her attention fades, why her responses shorten, why her eyes no longer light up when you enter the room. It's simple: a man without an internal axis cannot create emotional gravity. The female instinct is ancient. It responds to structure, not softness. To direction, not desperation. To grounded dominance, not emotional obedience. What ignites her desire is not your effort, but your resistance. Not resistance against her, but against your own fear of losing approval. Every woman wants the same unspoken thing: a man whose presence shapes the room. A man who moves with intention, not insecurity. A man who can hold her, without folding into her. And that is the truth you were never taught. The truth men spend their whole lives avoiding. The truth this video will finally expose. You have been fed a diet of lies, a slow-acting poison disguised as moral virtue. The great deception of the modern age is the myth of the good man. He is presented as the pinnacle of emotional evolution: sensitive, accommodating, endlessly patient, and utterly harmless. He is the man who sacrifices his own needs on the altar of her comfort, who measures his worth by the absence of her complaints, who believes that his agreeableness is a currency that will one day be redeemed for desire. He is a phantom, a walking apology, a man who has traded his spine for the hope of affection. And it is a losing trade. Every single time. The collapse of your romantic life began the moment you started believing that the path to a woman's heart was paved with your own concessions. You thought that by becoming a mirror to her emotions, you were building connection. You thought that by erasing your own opinions to validate hers, you were demonstrating empathy. You thought that by making yourself perpetually available, you were proving your commitment. What you were actually doing was signaling to the most ancient part of her brain that you were not a leader, not a protector, not an anchor in the storm of life, but a resource to be managed. A utility. And utilities, by their very nature, are replaceable. They do not inspire passion. They do not command respect. They are simply there. Until they are not needed. Her boredom is not a conscious choice, it is a biological verdict. It is her nervous system's honest response to a man who presents no challenge, no mystery, no world of his own for her to explore. You have become a perfectly manicured garden, beautiful and safe, but utterly devoid of the wild, untamed energy that her soul secretly craves. She may say she wants safety, and consciously she does. But the safety she desires is not the safety of a padded room where nothing ever happens. It is the safety of knowing she is with a man who can handle the chaos of the world, a man who has faced his own demons and emerged with his own code. The safety she feels with a man of unshakable internal structure is a thrilling, electric safety. The safety she feels with the agreeable, predictable man is the suffocating safety of a gilded cage. You became so focused on not doing anything wrong that you forgot to do anything real. You forgot that attraction is not born from a checklist of good behaviors. It is a visceral, immoral force of nature. It is the spark that flies between two opposite poles. When you neutralize your own polarity, when you sand down every edge, you kill the very friction required for that spark to exist. You become a perfectly smooth surface, and nothing can gain purchase. Her interest slides right off. This isn't a flaw in her design. It is the very mechanism that has ensured human survival for millennia. The female instinct is a finely tuned instrument for detecting masculine competence. Not brute force, not tyranny, but the quiet, unshakable confidence of a man who knows his own path and walks it, regardless of who approves. When you constantly seek her approval, you are forcing her into the masculine role of the judge, the one who grants or denies validation. You are asking her to lead the emotional dance. And while she may play along for a while, a deep and growing resentment builds within her. She does not want to lead. She wants to be led. She wants to surrender to a man's direction, to trust in his frame, to feel that he has a map and a destination, even if she doesn't fully understand it. When she sees you abandon your own map to follow hers, she may appreciate the gesture, but she loses respect for the man. The pain of this reality is that you are doing what you were told. Society, media, and even misguided relationship gurus have been selling this fraudulent model of masculinity for decades. They told you to be vulnerable, and you became porous. They told you to be empathetic, and you became an emotional sponge. They told you to be kind, and you became a doormat. They never taught you the critical difference between compassionate strength and subservient softness. They never explained that a woman respects the pillar that stands firm in the hurricane, not the reed that bends with every gust of wind. You were taught to deconstruct your masculinity, to view your innate drive, your assertiveness, and your desire to lead as toxic relics of a bygone era. And in its place, you were given a hollowed-out version of manhood, one that is perpetually apologizing for its own existence. And now you stand there, holding a heart full of good intentions, wondering why her eyes are looking past you, searching for something more. It is because you have become a ghost in your own life. You have given away your power, piece by piece, in exchange for a temporary peace that was never real. You have created a relationship dynamic where your only value is in your utility to her, and the moment your utility wanes, or the moment a man with a stronger internal axis appears, the entire structure you built on a foundation of agreeableness will collapse into dust. The first step to reclaiming your power is to accept this brutal truth: the formula you were given is not just ineffective, it is the very architecture of your failure. You must unlearn everything. You must be willing to be seen as the villain in a story that celebrates male passivity. You must have the courage to reintroduce the one element that has been systematically purged from your interactions: tension. Not the tension of anger or conflict, but the electric, life-giving tension of polarity. The tension of a man who has his own thoughts, his own standards, his own mission, and who will not compromise them for a smile or a moment of fleeting approval. This is the beginning of your rebirth. It is the moment you stop being a reflection and start becoming a presence. A presence that disrupts, that challenges, that leads. A presence that she cannot ignore, and that her deepest instincts cannot help but desire. This is where we begin to dismantle the lies. This is where you learn to harness the currency of chaos and forge attraction from the very friction you have been taught to avoid. You have been conditioned to believe that a smooth interaction is a successful one. You aim for conversations that flow without ripples, for agreements that come easily, for a dynamic free of all discomfort. You are the master of de-escalation, the champion of finding common ground, the man who would rather swallow his own tongue than introduce a dissenting opinion. You have become a diplomat in a game that requires a warrior. This pathological avoidance of friction is the primary reason for your invisibility. Desire is not a product of harmony, it is a product of resonance. And resonance requires vibration. It requires a string to be plucked. Your relentless agreeableness keeps the string slack. You create a dead zone of emotional neutrality, a space so comfortable and predictable that it becomes an anesthetic to her attraction. To reintroduce desire, you must reintroduce tension. Let's be clear, this is not about being argumentative, cruel, or creating drama for its own sake. That is the immature, low-value imitation of masculine power. The tension we speak of is subtle, it is psychological, it is the product of a man who is unapologetically himself. It is the tension that arises when she senses that your world does not revolve around her. It's the tension she feels when your opinion differs from hers, and you state it calmly, without needing her to agree. It is the tension of a delayed response to a text message, not as a manipulative tactic, but as a genuine reflection of a man who is engaged in his own life, whose attention is a valuable commodity that is earned, not given away freely. Think of it as emotional leadership. The man who avoids all friction is a follower. He is constantly scanning her for cues, adjusting his behavior, his words, his very energy to match hers. He is a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the waves of her mood. The man who leads, however, sets the emotional tone. He is the rudder. His energy is consistent, grounded, and internally generated. He can navigate her emotional storms without getting swept away by them. He listens to her feelings, he validates her experience, but he does not let her emotions dictate his reality or his direction. This creates an incredible sense of safety for her, a safety that is rooted in respect, not just comfort. She feels that she can be her full, chaotic, emotional self without the fear of breaking him. She tests this frame, constantly. Not consciously, not maliciously, but instinctively. Her sudden mood shifts, her moments of drama, her subtle challenges to your authority, these are all subconscious probes designed to answer one fundamental question: are you solid? Can you hold me? Or will you crumble under the weight of my reality? The agreeable man fails this test every single time. When her storm hits, he either crumbles into frantic appeasement, trying to fix her feelings and restore the comfortable harmony, or he becomes reactive and emotional himself, joining her in the chaos. In both cases, he has failed to lead. He has proven that his emotional state is dependent on hers. The man who understands tension, however, becomes the eye of the storm. He remains calm. He listens. He doesn't get hooked by the drama. He might say something like, "I understand you're feeling upset right now. We can talk about it when you're calmer," thereby validating her emotion while simultaneously holding a boundary against unproductive chaos. Or he might playfully tease her out of her mood, demonstrating that he is not intimidated by it. He holds the frame. He is the constant she can push against, the immovable object that allows her to feel her own flow. This is intensely attractive. This is the polarity that modern society has tried to extinguish. Masculine energy is about direction, purpose, and consciousness. Feminine energy is about flow, chaos, and life force. When a man abandons his direction to merge with her flow, the polarity collapses. There is no spark, no energy, no desire. You become two pools of stagnant water instead of a river flowing into the ocean. So how do you start building this tension? It begins with small acts of emotional courage. It's having the guts to say, "Actually, I don't agree with that," on a topic you're passionate about. It's choosing to finish your workout or your work project before responding to her non-urgent message. It's making a decision for the both of you, where to eat, what to do, instead of endlessly asking, "What do you want to do?" It is about replacing the question, "What will make her happy?" with the statement, "This is who I am, and this is where I am going. I would love for you to join me." This shift is terrifying at first because it risks disapproval. Every fiber of your conditioned being will scream at you to revert to the safe, agreeable path. But you must resist. This resistance to your own fear is the very act that builds your internal axis. You are not resisting her, you are resisting the weakness within yourself. And she will feel this internal battle, this victory of your own integrity over your fear. She will not see it as arrogance. She will see it as strength. She will feel your world, your reality, and she will be drawn into its gravity. You will no longer be a reflection of her world, but a world unto yourself, one that is mysterious, challenging, and infinitely more interesting. The friction you create by being an authentic, grounded man is the very thing that will make her feel alive in your presence. It is the grit that allows the pearl of desire to form. Stop trying to be a smooth sea. Be the rock. Let her waves crash against you. It is in that beautiful, chaotic collision that true, lasting attraction is born. The downfall of the modern man is rooted in a profound misunderstanding of value. He believes his value is something he must prove, something he must earn through performance, provision, and pleasing. He treats every interaction with a woman he desires as a job interview, where he must present his resume of good qualities and hope that she deems him worthy of her attention. He places her in the position of the recruiter, the gatekeeper of his own self-worth. This dynamic is an immediate and irreversible killer of attraction. The moment you treat a woman as if she is a rare prize to be won, you have already lost. It is an automatic communication of your own internal scarcity. You are telling her, without words, that your life is empty of quality options, that her attention is the most valuable thing you have encountered, and that you are willing to perform and contort yourself to keep it. This is the behavior of a supplicant, not a sovereign. And a woman cannot desire a man she does not respect. The most powerful shift you can ever make is to move from a mindset of proving your value to one of knowing your value and screening for hers. You must become the gatekeeper. You must become the relentlessly selective man. This is not about arrogance or playing games. It is about a deep, unshakable sense of self-worth that informs your every action. It is the quiet confidence of a man who knows what he brings to the table and is not afraid to eat alone if the company is not right. The relentlessly selective man operates from a place of abundance. He appreciates beauty, but he is not mesmerized by it. He enjoys charming conversation, but he is not seduced by it. He understands that a pretty face and a pleasant demeanor are merely the surface. He is screening for something deeper: character, reciprocity, alignment, energy. He is observing her actions more than he is listening to her words. Is she consistent? Does she respect his time? Does she add value to his life, or does she only seek to extract it? Does she have a life and a mission of her own, or is she looking for a man to be her entertainment director? This process of filtering is magnetic because it is so rare. Most men are so desperate for any crumb of female validation that they project their ideals onto any woman who shows them minimal interest. They fall for potential, not reality. They build a fantasy in their minds and then get angry when the real woman fails to live up to it. The selective man does the opposite. He starts from a place of neutrality. He assumes nothing. He lets her reveal herself over time. His attention, his time, and his emotional investment are given incrementally, based on what she demonstrates, not on what he hopes for. This creates a powerful sense of challenge for her. It activates her instinct to prove herself. Suddenly, she is the one in the job interview. She is the one who has to demonstrate her value. The roles have been reversed, and the power dynamic has shifted entirely. No woman feels truly chosen by a man who chooses anyone with a pulse. There is no victory in winning a prize that is freely given to all comers. But to be chosen by a man with high standards, a man who clearly has other options, a man who is not easily impressed, that is the ultimate validation. It communicates to her that she is not just another pretty face, but that she possesses a quality that he, a man of discernment, has recognized and valued. Her ego expands, and her desire for him solidifies, because his selection of her means something. In practice, this selectivity manifests in your behavior. It's not about being cold or aloof. It's about being grounded and intentional. It's about not immediately clearing your schedule the moment she suggests meeting up. You have a life, you have priorities, you fit her in where it makes sense. It's about not showering her with compliments and validation before she has done anything to earn them. A single, well-placed, specific compliment after she has shown genuine character is worth 1,000 generic platitudes thrown at her on the first date. It's about having the courage to end a conversation or a date first, leaving her wanting more. It's about being willing to walk away from a woman who is beautiful but brings constant drama, inconsistency, or disrespect into your life. This is the ultimate expression of self-respect. When you make exceptions to your own standards out of loneliness or desire, you betray yourself. And a woman can smell that self-betrayal a mile away. It tells her your boundaries are negotiable, and therefore, so is your respect. When you cultivate this selective mindset, you will notice a profound change in your interactions. You will stop being nervous. Why? Because you are no longer trying to impress her. You are simply screening for compatibility. The outcome is less important than the process. You are not seeking her validation, you are seeking alignment. This detachment from the outcome is the very thing that makes you incredibly attractive. You become a challenge, a mystery, a man whose approval is worth earning. You are no longer chasing butterflies, you are building a garden, and you are being very, very selective about which flowers you allow to grow there. Deep down, this is what she wants. She does not want a man she can walk all over. She wants a man with a fortress, and she wants to be the one who is granted the key. To be chosen by the king is a far greater thrill than to be catered to by the court jester. Become the king of your own reality. Define your standards. Enforce your boundaries. Be relentlessly selective. And watch as the very women you once chased begin to chase you, drawn in by the irresistible gravity of a man who knows his own worth. At this point, many men hit a wall. They understand the theories. They grasp the logic of tension, polarity, and selectivity. They can see the matrix. But when the moment of truth arrives, when she tests them, when their fear of loss kicks in, when the old programming tries to take over, they falter. They know what they should do, but they cannot bring themselves to do it. The knowledge has not yet become embodied. It is merely an intellectual concept, not a core part of their being. This is the gap between information and transformation. And it is a chasm that most men will never cross. To cross it requires more than just watching another video. It requires a system. It requires a deep, methodical reprogramming of your internal operating system. It requires an architecture for your masculinity. This is precisely why the Code of Seduction was created. It is not another collection of motivational speeches or clever lines to memorize. It is a strategic, psychological system designed to rebuild you from the ground up. It takes these raw, powerful principles of attraction and structures them into a method, a direction, a series of actionable behaviors that will transform your very presence. Inside the code, we don't just talk about tension, we show you how to calibrate it. We teach you to read the invisible emotional currents in any interaction, to understand her subconscious tests, and to respond not with fear or reaction, but with grounded, masculine presence. You will learn to control your own emotional tone, to create the healthy, magnetic tension that separates the common man from the unforgettable man. This isn't about manipulation. It is about understanding the fundamental language of human desire, a language that is spoken not in words, but in energy, in boundaries, in silence, in what is not said. Most of what you are learning here is merely the tip of the iceberg. They are the doors we are cracking open. Inside the code, we kick those doors off their hinges. We delve into advanced techniques and psychological frameworks that are far too potent to be shared on a public platform, as they require a level of maturity and responsibility to wield ethically. These are the tools that permanently alter the power dynamic, not through force, but through a profound understanding of female psychology and a mastery of your own. They are the keys to unlocking a version of yourself that is calm, confident, and in control, a man who leads interactions instead of reacting to them. If you are ready to stop being a student of the theory and become a master of the practice, if you are ready to transform your presence, your gaze, your energy, and your ability to create desire on command, then this is your logical next step. The path is laid out for you. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment below this video. This is the doorway to the next level. Now, let's return to the final piece of this puzzle, the element that separates the men from the boys, the rock from the sand. This is where most men collapse without even realizing it. This is where we explore the dangerous, beautiful game between her chaos and your calm. This is where desire is not just ignited, but sustained for a lifetime. In every relationship, there is a moment of truth. It is not the first kiss, nor the first night spent together. It is the first storm. It is the moment she reveals her vulnerability, her trauma, her insecurities, her chaotic emotional depths. For the untrained man, this is a moment of panic. He sees her pain and his programming screams at him to fix it. He confuses compassion with submission. He drops all of his boundaries, abandons his own needs, and transforms into a full-time emotional caretaker. He thinks he is being the supportive partner, the good man. In reality, he is demonstrating to her that his entire frame can be shattered by her emotional state. His compassion becomes a form of collapse. And no woman can truly desire a man she has broken. She will resent him for his weakness, for making her feel like a burden, for forcing her to witness his dissolution. The real dynamic she craves is far more profound. Her feminine essence, in its beautiful and chaotic nature, is like the ocean. It has gentle tides, and it has raging hurricanes. What she seeks is not a man who will try to calm her ocean, but a man who will be her lighthouse. A lighthouse does not run from the storm. It does not try to fight the waves. It simply stands. It is unmovable, unshakable, and its light cuts through the darkness, providing a fixed point of reference, a guide back to safety. Your masculine frame must be that lighthouse. You must be the man who can hold her in the midst of her emotional storm without losing yourself in it. You must have the capacity to listen to her deepest fears and insecurities without absorbing them as your own. This is the ultimate form of masculine love. It is not a weak, porous empathy that says, "I feel what you feel." It is a strong, containing presence that says, "I am here with you in your feelings, and I am not going anywhere. We will get through this." This emotional stability is perhaps the single most attractive quality a man can possess. It is the bedrock upon which she can build her trust and surrender. When she knows that she cannot break you with her emotions, she finally feels safe enough to be her complete self. She can be wild, irrational, and emotional without the subconscious fear that she will destroy the man she loves. She tests for this constantly. Every emotional outburst, every dramatic statement, every seemingly irrational complaint is an instinctive probe of your lighthouse. She is asking, "Are you still there? Is your light still on? Are you still solid?" The man who fails this test gets dragged into the storm with her. He becomes reactive. He defends himself. He tries to use logic to fight her emotions. He competes with her for the victim role. He amplifies the drama. In doing so, he becomes just another wave in her chaotic ocean, and the two of them are lost at sea. The man who passes the test remains the lighthouse. His tone of voice remains calm and steady. He does not get defensive. He does not try to solve her problem immediately. He simply listens. He provides presence. He might say, "That sounds incredibly difficult. I'm here for you." He affirms her right to her feelings without necessarily agreeing with her interpretation of events. He gives her the space to feel her storm while being the unwavering anchor of safety she can hold on to. This is not about being an emotionless robot. It is about being the master of your own emotions. It is about processing your own triggers and insecurities so that you are not activated by hers. It requires immense internal strength, a strength that is built in the fires of self-discipline, meditation, and a commitment to your own purpose. When she feels this strength, this unshakable core, her respect for you deepens into a form of awe. You become her emotional hero. This is the power she truly wants in you. Not the power to control her or dominate her life, but the power to remain whole, to be her rock, her North Star. It is in this profound solidity that her desire finds its ultimate resting place. It is this quality that transforms a fleeting attraction into a lifelong devotion. It is this firmness, this unwavering presence, that creates the kind of magnetism she simply cannot ignore, because it is the very thing her soul has been searching for. The final, uncomfortable truth, the one that society will brand as immoral, is this: she desires a man who cannot be bought. After all the theories, the strategies, and the psychological breakdowns, it all comes down to a single, raw principle. The man who stops being emotionally domesticated, the man who does not live for the sole purpose of pleasing, the man who refuses to negotiate his integrity in exchange for a woman's affection, that is the man her biology, her spirit, and her deepest instincts will recognize as a king. She does not truly want an emotional servant, a man whose happiness is a fragile thing dependent on her mood. She wants a man whose soul is not for sale. A man who cannot be bought with attention, with physical intimacy, or with validation. This is the point where masculinity regains its sacred structure. The powerful man, the magnetic man, does not need to broadcast his strength. He doesn't need to raise his voice or impose his will. His power is revealed in his containment. It is shown in what he does not do. He does not chase. He does not beg. He does not fall apart when tested. He does not surrender his frame. He controls his own energy, his own focus, his own boundaries, his own rhythm. And it is this very independence, this emotional self-sovereignty, that transforms his presence into an irresistible force of nature. It is this autonomy that subtly, silently, compels her to adjust her behavior to align with his world, not the other way around. Let's assemble the pillars of this temple of desire. First, the man who abandons the role of the spineless nice guy reintroduces the sacred tension necessary to create a spark. Second, the relentlessly selective man creates a psychological kingdom where she yearns to be the chosen queen. Third, the man who remains the lighthouse in her emotional storm activates a level of respect and surrender that comfort can never achieve. These three pillars form the unshakable core of female desire. She will never admit this at a dinner party. She will never write about it in a blog post. But her body will admit it. Her choices will admit it. The way she looks at you when you embody this truth will scream it louder than any words ever could. When you begin to live this way, the entire world shifts on its axis. You stop living in a state of reaction, constantly trying to prove your worth. You become the axis. You become the source. Your energy, not your neediness, dictates the flow of your interactions. You finally understand that the romantic morality you were taught was a map to a land that does not exist. The instinct that governs female desire is not interested in your good intentions. It is interested in your strength. Not the strength to lift weights, but the strength to hold your own reality. What awakens her deepest attraction is not the perfect man. It is the whole man. The man who has integrated his light and his shadow. The man who is kind, yet unyielding. The man who is compassionate, yet fiercely boundaried. She will never say this with words, but her every action is a prayer for this kind of man. Now that you understand the true architecture of desire, the principles and patterns that govern the invisible game, you stand at a crossroads. Knowledge is not power. Only applied knowledge is power. To know the path is not the same as walking the path. What truly transforms a man's life is not the passive consumption of information, but the active, strategic, and precise application of these laws. This requires a method. It requires an internal system. It requires the code of seduction. This is not just a course, it is an armory. It is a training ground for the mind, a system designed to transform the common man into someone who dominates the invisible game of tension, respect, and desire. It is a synthesis of real-world psychology, evolutionary dynamics, and calibrated nonverbal communication, designed to free you from dependence on luck, on her mood, or on recycled dating advice. Inside the code, you don't just learn about magnetism, you learn to build it into your very being. You learn to create tension, not just friendliness. You learn to command respect, not just seek presence. It provides a mechanism for internal reconstruction that makes you impossible to ignore. These are advanced, powerful techniques, taught in a structured and responsible framework because they require emotional maturity. These are the tools that will completely alter the way you are perceived by any woman who enters your orbit. This is the next level. This is the territory of men who are done asking for permission and are ready to master themselves and, in doing so, silently and powerfully influence the world around them. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. When you walk through that door, you will understand why so few men ever reach this level of understanding and personal power, and why those who do never look back. To begin your journey right now, here is a simple, 3-step checklist to recalibrate your value in silence, starting today. First, identify one situation in the next 24 hours where you would normally say, yes, just to keep the peace or avoid discomfort. In that moment, calmly and without apology, say, no, this small act of silent firmness is a deposit into the bank account of your self-respect. Second, think of one specific behavior from a woman in your life that you have been rewarding with your attention, even though you know it disrespects your time or energy. The next time it happens, meet it with complete, emotionless silence. Do not engage. Your energy is a filter, and you must teach people how you expect to be treated. Third, define one internal standard that you will raise, effective immediately. This could be related to the people you spend time with, the conversations you engage in, or the way you invest your time. When your personal standard rises, your aura changes, your posture changes, and the world's perception of you must change to meet it. These 3 small movements are the first steps in forging the mindset of the man that the code of seduction is designed to build. The man who is not bought, not bent, not molded. The man who leads. The man who is chosen, because he is the one who chooses. The man who finally understands what she truly desires, even when she will never, ever admit it.